You're listening to the Small Business Talk podcast with Cathy Smith, episode 3.
Small Business Talk is a podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs who want a better way to run their businesses without spending years doing it the hard way. Small Business Talk is hosted by Cathy Smith, who has run the same marketing agency for more than 17 years and helped hundreds of business owners achieve their marketing goals.
Hey, I'm so glad you could join us.
And today we are chatting to Barbara Cafagna.
Perfect. Hi, Cathy.
I was stressing about that.
You did really well.
Barbara is a health and wellness coach. So today she's going to talk to us about how to be well within ourselves so that we can be well within our business. Welcome, Barbara, and hello.
Thanks, Cathy. How are you?
Very well. Why do you think that personal wellness is so important to our business journey?
I think it's crucial because without having an awareness of your own personal wellness, I really think your business is going to suffer. If you're sleeping right, if you're not eating right, if you're doing all the things that you shouldn't be doing, I don't think you can be effective in your own business. And it's really important that we do keep well, that we listen to our body, that if we're starting to feel run down, that's something that we're in tune with.
And that's so true, isn't it? Because we're told hustle, hustle, hustle. But at some point in time, the hustle's got to stop and you've got to look after yourself or there will be nobody to hustle.
Oh, absolutely. And that word hustle I have never used in my business because I don't think it needs to be a hustle. I think if you're in flow as opposed to going with the flow, and this is something that I learned not all that long ago about what the difference is. You know, going with the flow is just kind of, oh yeah, nice and chilled and relaxed. But when you're in flow, that's where the magic happens within your business or within your wellness and all of that sort of thing. Because when you're in flow, you're doing things that are slightly challenging you, but are good for you as well. And that's something that's really important.
Totally, because I think actually going with the flow is more like being a sheep and just following along and having no real direction. The water's rushing past, you jump on board and off you go. Whereas if you're in your own flow, then you're making those conscious decisions so that you will then be heading in the right direction.
Absolutely. And that comes down to your health as well. I think all too often we can get caught up in what's the latest fad or what's the latest this or what's, whatever the case is. We kind of listen to too many people. And when you're doing that, you lose touch of who you are or, where your own personal wellness needs to be. And that was something that became really apparent to me 10 years ago when I had a stroke at the age of 35.
Wow.
Yeah, which was completely out of the blue. I had misdiagnosed headaches for about 6 to 8 weeks. And really, in terms of from a wellness perspective, I was living that optimal life of wellness. I was training at the gym. I was eating really well. I had a bit of stress in my work life, but not too much. So I was in flow, definitely. It's amazing how your body can really give you those little signals. And I knew instinctively that something wasn't right, but I had to go down that path of really finding out and digging. And I always say, if I knew what I know now back then, I don't think I would have had the stroke.
No, because you would have been able to prevent it leading up to it because you would have heard those correct signals as you go along.
Absolutely. And even though I was conveying those, my symptoms to GPs, I couldn't articulate exactly what I thought it was. So had I gone in and said, look, I really think that I've got some sort of neurological symptoms happening, maybe that would have been the catalyst for them to go, okay, well, maybe we need to test further or, do testing earlier than what it all happens. It was very interesting. I learned a lot, and that's really what got me into being a holistic wellness coach. I thought for myself, if I had all this knowledge to start with and still ended up having a stroke, how many people out there don't have the knowledge and are ending up with like really catastrophic kind of effects after it all.
And I guess in some ways is why you've been able to bounce back after 10 years and be able to continue your journey, because we don't know what we don't know. And
no.
Unfortunately, that's a real problem in today's society.
It is. And look, it's been a really difficult time to recover through, and physically I recovered really quickly, thank goodness. But it was all the emotional stuff that you don't know about, that's not explained to you when you get out of hospital. So I spent 10 days in hospital. It's very interesting. And then when you start doing your own digging and, learn about different ways that you can help yourself, that's really where you feel empowered. And that's what I'm all about when I'm coaching and really going down that space. It's all about, for me, it's all about guiding and educating and empowering women to seek their own answers, because what works for me may not work for you or for someone else.
Yeah, definitely. Being well within ourselves so that we can be well within our business, what's the first thing you think we should be looking at?
I really think it all starts with understanding what your values are, because when we work within our values, that's when we're working within a certain framework, what we will put up with, what we don't put up with as well. And a lot of times we don't value our own personal wellness. And I think that's something that needs to be looked at when we look at a business as well, because I don't think we can be well in our business if we're not physically and emotionally well.
That's so true, isn't it? Because for a lot of entrepreneurs, our business lives and our personal lives intertwine, and there's not always a clear-cut delineation. So, yes, not being well in our business. So what do you think people do with their values? They don't define them as in they haven't got them clear, or they just let people sort of overdo their boundaries and railroad them a bit?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's sometimes people don't know what their values are because they haven't actually sat down, and it's really interesting because before we start a business, we put together a business plan or a proposal or something like that. But a lot of times we don't put together, our values plan. So how do you know whether you're working within your values or not if you haven't actually taken the time for yourself to set them out? So I think it's getting clear with those. And then once you are clear with your values, is understanding that that's your blueprint, that's your framework, which keeps you sane when you are in business, because it can get a little bit crazy sometimes.
Absolutely. And when we start stressing, of course, the first thing that goes is our health. So what would be a tip that you could suggest for business owners, maybe something that they need to really look at to make sure that they're keeping themselves healthy, so that therefore they can be the best that they can for their business?
Yeah, I think for one is having a dedicated space, both physically and mentally. So having a dedicated workspace if you are working from home, that you know that from, whatever your work hours are, that's where you go to work, and that's your space. That's where you do what you need to do, for your business. And the other thing is also having that mental space as well. So that when you have finished work is to be able to step out and go, okay, now this is my private time. Because we do it when we're employees, but we don't do it when we're entrepreneurs. And that's when we really need to. And I think sometimes we feel guilty, when we see the phone's ringing and it's a client at 7:30 at night and you think, I really need to get that. But then I think to myself, if I was an employee of someone, would I be worried about that call just the same? I think it sets the expectation as well of your clients, or whether you're delivering a service or a product or whatever the case is. We need that time away from our business as well as the time in our business. So definitely having a space. So whether that be an office space or a dedicated desk space in your home if you're working from home.
I like the idea of a dedicated space. When I was working part-time, I used to get up and put my work uniform on, regardless of whether I was going to see clients or not, because that is getting that mindset, getting into that workspace. And other people treat you differently as well, because then they can see that you're working and, you don't really have time for coffee today because you're in work. The other thing I liked that you said about setting boundaries about your calls. Yeah, definitely. As employees, there'd be no way we'd be answering a call at 7:30 on a Sunday night. But as entrepreneurs and business people, we tend to think, we should be doing that. So I absolutely love that. And how do you think we should be looking at managing things like maybe our food intakes or our fitness areas there?
This is one thing that I really had to look at last year. And as I was getting busier with my own business, I found that I wasn't living within my values. And one of my values is exercising, being healthy, and that went by the wayside a little bit. So for me, I became my own best client. And I really had to dedicate time and get my calendar, get my Outlook calendar and my diary and block out those times. So I know that I do my mindfulness in the morning. I go to the gym, or whether I'm walking the dog, do those sorts of things, but have them blocked out in my calendar, again, as if I was an employee who had, those sorts of things to do as well. I schedule in lunch. I schedule in those times where it is a bit of downtime, my breaks, all that sort of thing. Just having that plan that pops up in your calendar as just that reminder. Because to be honest, if I didn't have my dog sitting in the office with me, I would work right the way through till my partner got home.
That's so true, isn't it? Because if it's an appointment and it's in our diaries, then we have to do it, and we can't then double book. If we're just having we've got to have lunch or got to go to the gym at some point, it doesn't happen.
No, having it there, and again, as a great reminder, and it's just part of that organised mindset as well, because you know what your structure is for the day and you can go in and be really productive.
And I think that's perfect, because a lot of us spend a lot of time doing busy work, and some of that is really just trying to work out what you need to do for the day. So if it's popping up and it's first up, you go to the gym, then you have your breakfast, and then you have appointments 1, 2, and 3, and then you have your writing time or whatever it needs to be. It's a much more scheduled thing, and you don't have to have that busy time thinking, which of these 20 things do I have to do?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Having that time for yourself is just important, because you're making an appointment with yourself. So having a value of, I value my time just as much as I value my client's time, that's really important. And it's okay to put ourselves first. There's nothing wrong with that. It just makes us a lot more effective.
Absolutely, because if we don't put ourselves first, then we can't be working on the health of our business, because we're not working on the health of ourselves, especially if you're a smaller entrepreneur or a single entrepreneur. If you're not fully engaged in your business, then the business will probably end up falling over. So I love that. Blocking time is great.
Oh, yeah, it's really important. Something that's worked really well for me as well.
Excellent. So what other tips would you have for people to keep really healthy in their business and the health of their business?
Prioritising, again, which gets back to what we just mentioned. Some of the other things is making sure that the food that you're getting is really good quality food. So we eat a lot of organic, certified organic foods. I make sure that the fuel that I am taking in is the best I can find, because that, again, is investing in myself, which then is a direct investment into my business. So if I'm eating well, if I'm getting enough water, if I'm hydrated, not drinking a lot of coffee, all of those things help the wellness of myself, which then directly helps the wellness of my business. Because if I can be alert and sharp and not feeling like I'm sluggish or headachy because I haven't drunk enough water, then that's the best thing I can do. So really having that check to say, okay, have I drunk enough water? I keep a massive 2-litre bottle of water by my desk, and I make sure that I drink that all the way through.
Excellent. Well done. And I think that's the thing too. The busier we get, then the food does tend to slip. If you've actually pre-prepared something so that you don't then have to think about it once again, part of your block schedule, then you're more likely to eat a nice salad as opposed to just grabbing whatever in between appointments, which is not always the best kind of food.
Exactly. And if you are, if you know that you're going to be on the road and you're going from appointment to appointment, have really good healthy snacks in your bag. So again, you're prepared. You don't have to rely on ducking into, the supermarket and going through the aisles and, reading labels and going, oh, that's got too much sugar, or this has got that or whatever it is. Have them already at home prepared. And you might want to, block that time out over a weekend.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah, do your shopping then. Whatever works. And trust me, I don't have every minute of my day blocked out. So, but it's just around the work, around my business time, then yeah, I do, definitely.
And I think that's important too, is to actually schedule some downtime where you have, even though it's a schedule, you don't have anything blocked on that.
Yeah.
But you've got thinking time, you've got inspiring time, and whether that be while you're out walking the dog or whether that be just slothing time, I think that's important to put in as well.
Absolutely. If you want to whack your pajamas on at 6 o'clock at night, go for it.
And definitely don't do a Skype call.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to be doing that. So, yeah, just having that time, definitely, and getting good nutrition.
So do you think it's a good idea to have a hard stop as well, particularly if you are working from home, so that you say, right, 6 p.m, that is it. That's no more work time. We do tend to run our businesses and our personal lives in together far too much.
I made the mistake when I was a travel consultant and I had my own mobile business from home. When I started that business, I thought, okay, I'm going to be different. So I'm going to offer a 24/7 service for my clients. The worst thing I could have done.
Absolutely.
Because that meant my phone was on 24/7. That meant that if the phone rang at 3 o'clock in the morning, which it did because some of my clients had just missed their flight, I would then be up at 3 a.m. in my home office working out their flights. So you can imagine my productivity the next day just wasn't there. It was terrible. With this business, as a holistic wellness coach, it's very different now. It's not 24/7, call me whenever you need to. I need to respect my time with my partner as well as, just my own space as well, because it makes me a better coach.
Absolutely. And if you're not walking the talk, then how can you expect your clients to follow your advice?
Exactly.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about what you're doing now?
I'd love to, thanks. Yeah, so I mentioned I'm a holistic wellness coach. What that's all about is really about guiding, educating and empowering women to rediscover their own greatness as well as their own optimal health and wellness. Health and wellness, when we talk about, what my optimal wellness is different to yours or different to someone else's. So it's really about working with the client to establish, okay, what does optimal wellness look like for you? And working from there. We look at things like their sleep and their stress, look at, how much exercise they're getting, looking at their work-life balance, which just quietly isn't a balance, it's a blend for sure. So, balance is all things being equal, which doesn't happen.
No.
Yeah, and looking at their overall well-being to start with. So I get all of my clients to do a questionnaire, and then that way I can see what's going on. It's a really good way for me to also see if they've got any health issues that need to be addressed before I can help them. Because it's all well and good if someone's saying they're not sleeping or they're super stressed or, they've got other issues going on. If there's an underlying medical issue, then that needs to be addressed before I can then look at them for their overall well-being.
Perfect. Sounds like a great way to keep your business really healthy by looking at you first. Excellent. Our top takeaways would be for keeping yourself well for your business, to keep your business well, would be looking at your values, making sure that you've got a space, both a workspace and a mental space, blocking out some time and keeping good hydration and nutrition up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to finish off, we have our final 5. These are quick questions.
I'm on the spot
you ready?
now.
Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, so not necessarily one-word answers, but short and concise.
Oh, good.
Okay, here we go. Number 1, what is the biggest help that you have received since starting your business?
Has been getting an amazing mentor. Yeah, is worth everything.
Fantastic. What do you wish you had known when you started your business that you know now?
That I'm okay and that I'm enough.
Excellent. What is the best advice given to you by a mentor?
That I am okay and I am enough.
Excellent. What is the one thing that you have to do every day, your non-negotiable?
Oh, meditate. Yeah.
And what is your favourite business book and why?
This was one I read years and years ago, and it's by John C. Maxwell, and it's called Thinking for a Change. Now, when I read that book, I didn't realise the impact that it would have on my life. And there's so many amazing tips and just really about getting clarity. And it was just incredible, absolutely incredible. And Tools of Titans at the moment with Tim Ferriss. That's a great one.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Barbara. And if people would like to know more about you or get in contact with you, what's the best way to contact you?
Best way is by phone, my mobile, which is 0406 268 I also have a Facebook page as well, so people can private message me through that, which is just Barbara Cafagna, Holistic Wellness Coach.
Fantastic. And we will put the links to both of those in the show notes for people. So very much appreciate your time, Barbara. Thank you for being on the Small Business Talk podcast.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Thanks, Cathy.
Don't forget to subscribe to Small Business Talk podcast and head on over to smallbusinesstalk.com.au/downloads for all the show notes and links to this episode. Remember, to be great, you must start. Pick one tip from today's episode, take action and implement it. Let's meet again next week at the same time and place. Until then, take action. And SBT community, enjoy your journey.